Okay, let's make this into a printer, shall we? You ready? Nope. Guess I'm not a pro YouTuber anymore. Anyway, let's organize some screws so they're easier to access, and I'll start to put this together with you guys. So let's start with preparing all your parts. To do that, I do recommend getting one of these chamfering tools. If you have an elephant's foot, you can just use this and kind of scratch off that layer, that bottom edge. Makes it nice and easy. You might also want to go over and check that all your holes are okay and you don't have any stringing that you need to remove. If you need to remove some stringing, use a hairdryer or a heat gun, and it'll get rid of everything. So let's start with heat inserts. There is quite a lot of heat inserts on the Fabreeko-kit. If you're building the normal Mark 1, then it should be all nuts in these holes. So with the Fabreeko-kit, let's start with the bottom. So every single one of these are a heat inserts. So we're going to start with those because they are the easiest ones. And you get a bag that has all your heat sets in them. And what you just need to do is you need a soldering iron. And I do recommend having something metal that you can use to kind of guide your heat sets in and let them stay there. So I use this this square. So to set in some heat inserts, you get your heat inserts ready. You put the skinny side of it into the hole so that it kind of sits partially in there. You get your nice and hot soldering iron, and you just put the soldering iron into the threads, and you just give it a slight pressure downwards to help it go in, and then just let it heat up with that soldering iron. And just as it hits the top of the print, remove your soldering iron. You get your metal object and just press down. That'll make sure that the top surface gets nice and smooth and even, so it doesn't protrude. And there you go, we have a nice heat set. So I'm just gonna get all these done, and then we're gonna move on to the next part. And there you go. That's the bottom frame. All the heat sets are in. The top frame, all the heat sets are in. Remember these on the inside. You might want to take a screw and kind of pull with that. And it also has on the sides. Just note that these tiny holes on the back does not have heat sets, and these ones do not have heat sets because it's the other side of these ones. Other than that, let's move on. So up next, we are going to use these rods from your kit, if you got them self-sourced, and we need to insert them into the 4 corners. So ideally, when you print this, it should be perfectly fit. Sometimes you don't get that, either you forgot or there's something wrong during printing, or anything can happen. So I can insert some of them, but I need to tune a little bit out of some of them also. So I do not recommend getting a drill bit and just drilling it out, because they tend to be slightly oversized. So what you can do is just get a file and simply just file through it. Just sit down and take your time and get these perfect. So keep checking, file a little bit, keep checking, file a little bit. I've found that using a slightly larger file does help. It makes it a little bit easier, because this one I can just put in and twist, and that's it. That's enough for this to be better and make it easier to insert. So you want it to be firm. You don't want it to just keep going. So you want it to be nice and firm in there. So I'll get back to you when I've got all of my rods inset into this one, and then we'll try this one. So now I have my 4 rails into the top frame, and do remember that whatever side has the heat inserts or nuts on them, that's the bottom of that side. So this is meant to be like this. So next we're gonna put together the frame. This is a modded part, this is not the stock part. And we need to put these bearings into these holes. They should be a snug fit. If they're loose, you might have to want to get some shims or something in there, and if they're tight, well then it's back to getting these files out and getting everything done. So I'll get those in and we'll do the next part. Now that we have our bed frame on, we'll put that onto the main frame. And no, I did not forget to do all this and then had to pull this part. That did not happen. You did not see that. Next goes the bottom plate. This is just a decorative plate for the Fabreeko-kit. You didn't see that either. Okay, now let's put this back on, and we'll keep going on the motors and idlers. This time I promise. Okay, so now we have a frame. So when you're putting the top on, remember that you want to align this protruding part on the Fabreeko-kit on to this motor mount on the back. On the stock Mark 1 frame, there's a cutout for the idler to go right here. So that's the rear on that part. So up next, I think we'll do the legs. It just makes it easier to work on it when it can be upright. So let me get the legs ready and all the bolts that I need, and let's get this done. So let's put the feet on. The Fabreeko feet are attached with M3x10 bolts into the heat sets. On the Mark 1 standard kit, it's M5x10s on the bottom. So these just thread in. It's nice and easy to do this. So you would have the 2 feet without holes on the front, and then the 2 bigger ones on the back, like this. Okay, so we have the 4 feet mounted, nice and snug, and I like to, because I'm going to move this around quite a lot while working on it, I like to have the rubber feet on first. So the Fabreeko-kit comes with 4 of these feet. They just attach with a M5 straight into the plastic. There's no nuts or anything. The M5 just threads into the plastic. The Mark 1 has the same. You can find these on the bill of materials for the Mark 1, or you can even print your own out of TPU. I have done that in the past and it works quite well. So if you have a TPU roll and you have a printer to do that, I do recommend trying to print your own. So let's find the right bolt and get these on. So in the Fabreeko-kit, there's a set of M5x16s, and you can put those into the feet, and you simply put them on and screw them in. there we go. Nice and soft, gives your printer a nice base to stand on. So let me get all 4 of these and we'll move on to the top. So there we go, all 4 rubber feet are on, so it's ready for us to start on the exciting bits. We're going to start with the rails, and I do recommend you go ahead and lubricate these. I've already done so. You want to wash them in something like IPA or brake cleaner or something to get all the grease off, and then re-lubricate them. The type of grease is a debate. I'm not going to get into that. You can look it up online. So these sit on the frame, and it's what gives the printer its back and forth movement. And to screw these on, there are a lot of holes here on the Fabreeko-kit, but you only need 4 of them. So I suggest that you do 2 here and then 2 here, so you'll have the 2 in the middle left open. So let's get that installed, and I'll do the other side as well, and then we'll start with the idlers and the motor mounts. So that's our rails on. Keep in mind you don't have to tighten these, we're going to adjust them later. Just get them down there so that your carriage can swing back and forth. Next we're going to do the idlers, the front idlers. So there's one on each side. I'm using Fabreeko's version. The Mark 1 is taller and encases the bearings that go in there. So you need to remove these caps and then put these on. Mine are a little bit snug because I'm using fuzzy skin, so everything's a bit snugger than it should be. And then there's 1 bolt on the side and 1 on the front of the printer. So let me get those done, and then we'll do the back motor mounts. So that is the idlers done, nice and snug. So we're going to move on to the motor mounts. And these have 2 bolts, one that goes all the way through, so you'll need the long bolts. And then there's the second hole on the side here, that's an M3x10. But keep in mind that this is not a threaded insert, it's just there for stability. So it threads into plastic, so don't over tighten that one. And again, you need to remove these protectors that prevents your rails from sliding off. Do not let this slide off. It's a nightmare. Ask me how I know. Then we're going to put the motor mounts on there and get those screws in. Okay, so the motor mounts are on. Remember, don't over tighten these side ones. Next is the top gantry, and this attaches to the rails with 3 screws, not 4. There's 4 holes, but there's 3 screws in here. So the design lets you go through here with your screwdriver and screw all the way down. So let me get that done, and then we're going to start with some idlers and motors. But to me that's going to be tomorrow, so I'll see you again then. After you've got your top gantry on, you screw your X-rail to the gantry. On the Mark 1, this is 2 pieces. There's a mod to make it 1 single piece. Also, the Fabreeko-kit has the single piece. So next we're going to move on to motors and idlers. Next we're going to do the front idler like this one. So we're going to grab our M5x30, and then we're going to take 2 bearings and put them on so that the flanges faces out on both of them, like so. Then we're going to pull one of these brass washers, put that on. And then we're going to take another 2 bearings and also put these on the same way as the first ones. And then another brass washer. And then we'll screw this into here. And remember, these go into plastic, so you don't need to over tighten them. And there we have the front idlers done. Let's move on to the gantry next. So now we're going to do the idlers, and as you can see, I've set in my screw. This is how I like to do it, and I'll put in the 2 bearings and a single washer on this side, like that. How you want to adapt your screw, maybe give it a little bit more room, like that. And then I'll simply just slot this all in there, like so. And then you kind of need to, sorry for my hands in the way, but you need to align everything while getting that screw through each hole. So now I'm at the second bearing. So I'll use my tweezers, my trusty old tweezers, to hold the bearing in the correct spot and get the screw in. And so now we are in, but we need another washer. So we'll get the last washer and unscrew the screw so that there's room for it, and then kind of get it inside. Let me see here. Get it inside of there. Like so. Then push it in. You might need to unscrew the screw a little bit more. Then push that brass washer in. Okay, there we go. It's in. This is the most frustrating part of this entire build. It's kind of tight in there, but that's how you do it. So there's one set, another set behind here, and then 2 more sets there. So I'm going to do those off camera, and then we'll continue. Now that we have our front idlers, our gantry bearings, we just need the last one, which is the Z bearing, and it's in there. We get our bolts and our 2 bearings, so one each direction, and then a single washer, and then we can screw that into the back. And there we go. Remember, this threads into plastic just like your front idlers, so you don't need to over tighten this. That'll just strip the plastic, and we don't want that. So next we're going to assemble the motors and get them installed. So we got our motors, and we're just going to prepare all 3 of these. It's easier to do when they're not on the printer. So you have your 2 set screws. So you need to make one of them hit these flat spots on the shaft of the motor. So you put it in and tighten this screw. You don't need to tighten the other one yet, because we're going to adjust this once it's on the printer. So let me go ahead and get these installed, and we're going to put them on the printer. I did forget to say that on the Fabreeko-kit, or if you have Gulsifer Speed kit mod, you want to put one of them upside down. This is for one of the motors. Like so. So let's get these motor installed. So we'll take the A motor, which is the one with the upside down if you're using the speed mod. Then I like to insert 2 screws to begin with. And then simply hold the screw in, get one started. We don't need to tighten these, we're gonna do that at a later point when we get the belts installed. So you just want to get all 4 of them just threaded in. Like so. So let's get the other one done and then we'll do the last one in the bottom. Now the Z motor goes in the same way as all the other motors do. You put it in place and you put in the screws. And again, you don't need to tighten these. You can do that at a later point. Okay, so that's it for this video. We're gonna do all the electronics, mounting the hot end, and then doing the belts in the next one. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you whenever I get to do the next one. These do take a lot of time, I'm sorry, but I want to get this right.